Today we explore what most consider to be the birthplace of modern football, the glorious city of Sheffield in South Yorkshire. Hit that like button because this is gonna be a good one. Before football became the game we all know and love today, it's fair to say it was an absolute mess. Different towns, schools, groups of people all had their own ideas about how to play the beautiful game. I say beautiful game, but back then it was anything but beautiful. Some people thought picking the ball up and running with it, like in rugby, that was the way to play the game. Some people thought hacking away at their opponent's legs was the way to play the game. As I said, it was essentially chaos, disorganised, and there were no set rules. However, despite all that, in the 1850s here in Sheffield, that was about to change, because according to that blue plaque over there, the man, Sir Nathaniel Creswick, the co-founder of Sheffield FC, the oldest football club in the world, formed in 1857, right here inside those solicitor offices. We will go to the home of Sheffield FC in a moment, but even more significantly, 1 year later, in 1858, he would draw up what were known as the Sheffield Rules, and essentially the rule book modern football would follow. No VAR, I think you'll be glad to know. So let's explore Sheffield and let's learn about the importance of this incredible city and why it really is the birthplace of modern football. Behind me is the Crucible Theatre here in Sheffield. Now this was originally the Adelphi Hotel, a hotel again really significant in our journey on the creation of modern football. Now when it was the Adelphi Hotel, it was the place in which those Sheffield Rules that were written up over in the building across the street, where those rules were formally approved. It's also where Sheffield Wednesday were formed in 1867, right here at the Adelphi Hotel. Apparently Sheffield United also have links to this place as well, and the Sheffield FA were also formed right here. So another really significant place in our journey of discovering the origins of modern football. I remember back in the day my mates talking about girls who were always after that blue tick dick. Well, I'm the weirdo in 2026 looking for the blue plaque, not dick. I love a blue plaque basically. Every time I see a blue plaque I know it's going to have some history attached. Are there any more blue plaques around Sheffield before we get to the home of Sheffield FC? Let's go and have a look. So there's loads of blue plaques in and around Sheffield, but we'll speak about those at the end of the video, as I feel it's more important to start where club football began, and that's with Sheffield FC. In 1857, two men called Nathaniel Creswick and William Prest would found these guys, Sheffield Football Club, of course now famously known as they're recognised by FIFA as the world's oldest football club. Now being the first ever football club, it doesn't necessarily mean they're the first ever team to kick a ball around, first ever group of blokes to play some form of football, but they are the first ever actual football club, and that is massive. Because once you've got a club, you need structure, you need opponents, you need organisation, and as we mentioned at the start, you need bloody rules. And we'll get on to the Sheffield Rules in a moment. Now, of course, we're here at the site currently known as the home of Football Stadium. We recently made a video on the old Wembley, which obviously Wembley often is called the home of football, but this I guess genuinely is as a club, but not as a ground. You see, Sheffield FC have led a somewhat nomadic lifestyle. They've moved grounds numerous times over the years since their founding back in 1857, and they've only actually been here, which isn't even technically in Sheffield, it's in Derbyshire at a place called Dronfield. They've only been here since 2001, and it is their very first ground they've ever owned. Before that they would ground share, they would rent places, and of course when football was first formed, teams just used to play at cricket grounds until not too far away from here, another football club in 1860 was formed and would have, or still has, the claim of owning the oldest football ground. Before we go there, obviously at this point being the first ever football club, they didn't have any teams to play against. Sheffield FC would play against each other, its own members. They would have games like married men versus single men, professionals versus amateurs, I believe. They would just make up their own teams. But I just teased that in 1860, another football club fairly close by was formed, and again have the claim of owning the oldest ground in the world. So let's go and see another team who competed with these guys really early on in the history of modern football and still compete with today. Let's leave Sheffield FC, let's head to Sandygate and find out more about Hallam FC. So as we said guys, these guys were formed in 1860. Now we'll get on to the battle between them and Sheffield FC in a moment, but as you can see over here on the sign, next opponent, Sheffield Wednesday. How fitting. Obviously a pre-season friendly, July the 14th, 7:45. I'm tempted to return here actually, but of course in terms of the history of this club, now we said formed in 1860, they play their very first, or the first ever inter-city competitive game against Sheffield FC right here at Sandygate on Boxing Day in 1860. Now again, let me know in the comments below, this is called Sandygate, but over here is Sandygate Road. Which came first? Was the road named after the ground, or was the ground named after the road? I guess being the oldest football ground, that kind of had a knock-on effect to so many other grounds in English football, most of which were named after the street they were joined onto. We're going to check out Bramall Lane in a moment, the home of Sheffield United. The list goes on, doesn't it? So many English football grounds are named after the street they're located on. It does look like it's locked up. We're going to do a typical Rise Football Paradise thing and try and sneak in or speak politely to anyone who may be here. But it is quite insignificant in terms of size, as to be expected. And there we go guys, by entrance 2, welcome to Sandygate, the oldest football ground in the world. Terrible beer. Maybe a massive schoolboy error on my part in my preparation for this video. Do they still play in the Northern Premier League? It's got it on the sign over there, and I think I saw that sign at Sheffield FC, so maybe they are still in 2026 competing with each other. A whopping how many years after that first game in 1860? So over here guys, we've got the rather humble entranceway into the stadium. I say stadium very loosely, ground, I think that's the terminology we should use. Confirmation again with that glorious plaque. Sandygate, the oldest ground in the world, home to Hallam Football Club, founded in 1860. So the research we did was correct. Your club needs you. We are looking to build our team of volunteers, both on match day and on an ad hoc basis, with general groundwork and maintenance. Guys, here we go, a little bit of a shout out. If you're gonna chip in and help out the oldest football ground in the world, there's your contact details over there. Contact katieellisediting.com. We always talk about modern football and how it's become disconnected from the local community. When you see signs like that, it just shows you why so many people in England or in Britain or around the world are switching from professional football, again especially here in England, moving away from the commercialism of the Premier League and instead putting their money, putting their support into football clubs like this. Again, besides the gimmick of having the oldest stadium, or Sheffield FC's case, the oldest football club in the world, they're not just a gimmick, are they? They're a part of the community. It's just the community's been here a hell of a long time. And this area, Hallam, by the way, is really, really nice. I'm from Cheltenham, on the edge of the Cotswolds. Although this isn't Cotswold stone, I love these houses, the brick walls. It's everything similar to what we see closer to where I live. Really nice. I was going to shout over to the bloke over there doing the cricket maintenance, but you can see it all from here guys. It's really fitting, or slightly ironic actually, that this We mentioned how football clubs would play at cricket grounds. This is considered the first ever football ground, and ironically it's summer, it's cricket season, and the Hallam Cricket Club play here as well. This doesn't look anything like a football ground at the moment, so I'm going to be really interested to see when we eventually come here on match day, maybe for that friendly, what it's like on match day, because you can see, if I remember correctly, the one goal is here, the other goal is over there. So you've got no stand along that one side. It must just be spectators along the side of the pitch. So again, very humble beginnings for English football, but fascinating nonetheless. And what really annoys me, you've got all this history around us. We mentioned the beautiful stone walls, but opposite, the oldest football ground in the world is going to be modern housing. Definitely getting old and grumpy. Not a fan of that. We said it was ironic that cricket is being played at the oldest football ground still in use in the world, but of course cricket's history is far older than football's. As you can see, the cricket club have been around since 1804. And again, if you are not from England, a lot of our English clubs came from cricket clubs looking for something to do in the winter months when the cricket season was over. Before Anfield, Old Trafford, the Bernabeu, the New Camp, all these incredibly famous grounds around the world, none are more significant, to be honest, than this right here. Without this, maybe we wouldn't have some of those grounds I've just mentioned. Anyway guys, let's continue the journey and let's head to Hillsborough, home to Sheffield Wednesday, who were formed in 1867 as the Wednesday, a mere decade after club football began with Sheffield FC. They've been playing here at Hillsborough since it opened in 1899. A little rough and ready, it's seen some highs and lows over the years. We say it every time we visit an English football ground, or especially an old one. We love the fact that it's in the heart of the bloody community. I mean, just look at this terraced housing. So just to the side of me is the Hillsborough Stadium. And obviously I'm not going to trespass, but if you look down someone's side gate, it completely backs on to the ground. It's not quite Kenilworth Road and the Oak Road stand that overlooks the gardens, but it's pretty bloody close. Anyway, as we walk down the road, I'm actually approaching Leppings Lane, which, if you are aware of the Hillsborough disaster, is quite an eerie road, because obviously it was down the Leppings Lane entrance that Liverpool fans made their way on that tragic day in 1989. I'm trying to keep this upbeat and about the history of football, but of course you can't come to Hillsborough and not speak, unfortunately, about the disaster in 1989. So I can see a mural though. That's definitely brightened the mood. What is that? Now I've seen this mural on Instagram, I believe. I love it because, as you can see on each face, you've got your typical standard thing a football fan will shout, in England anyway. Reet pass, have a dig, time for a pint, fetch pies, shoot, nah then ref, go on, row Z, solid wall, goal, get rid. All typical things Wednesday fans will shout during match day. This is Leppings Lane, and obviously in front of me now we've got that entranceway that the Liverpool fans made their way to in 1989. Let's go and check it out.
The approach was a narrow bottleneck, along which 10,100 people had to be funneled in through just 7 turnstiles.
So I actually had a 5-minute conversation with a guy on security, and you know, an older guy, I hope he won't mind me saying that. He was actually here, he still worked here in the 80s. He was here when that tragic day occurred. And of course he was talking to me about this entranceway into the ground. Now this has changed, of course, it needed to change after the Hillsborough disaster in 1989. Now apparently these turnstiles actually came further out and of course caused that kind of bottleneck due to the sheer amount of people trying to get in at that one time. It's a little bit different now, a lot safer of course, and as he said, hopefully never happens again. I very much doubt it would in the modern health and safety era we live in. But really is an eerie feeling to know that I'm stood right at the same spot so many people lost their lives back in '89. I was born in '89 as well. I was actually born like 2 months after, so it's eerie for someone who didn't even live through the horrible disaster. Unfortunately, we've experienced many a disaster in English football. In Bolton, we spoke about the Burnden Park disaster, often forgotten, and that was many years before Hillsborough happened. There were various incidents of overcrowding. I know that at Hillsborough, Tottenham Hotspur played, I believe, also an FA Cup tie here at a neutral venue. Overcrowding, fatalities almost happened then. There were so many warning signs ahead of the Hillsborough disaster. So to come down here and to look down what looks like just any old street, knowing the tragedy that occurred, I can't help but feel that it really could have been avoided. Obviously a nice tribute here, and I'm glad it says in memory of the 97, not the 90. So let's move on. Did you know that prior to being nicknamed the Owls, Sheffield Wednesday were known as the Blades? Yes, same as their now fierce rival Sheffield United. This is due to the city's fame back in the day for cutlery and knives. Some believe the switch to the Owls nickname coincided with the club's move to Hillsborough, which happens to be in an area called Owlerton, but it's worth noting that in fact the name was adopted after a player gave the club an owl mascot back in 1912 and proved to be somewhat luckier than the monkey mascot they had previously. Since then, the Owlers featured on the Wednesday club badge year after year. Hillsborough was one of the top stadiums in the country post-World War II and hosted many important games, many FA Cup semi-finals, and of course in 1966 being a World Cup host stadium. It's next to a big park and the River Don, and it's roughly 3 miles away from the city centre. So ladies and gents, share your experiences at Hillsborough in the comments below. I mean guys, on first impression, the ground looked a little bit rough and ready. Of course, there's loads of maintenance people here doing work to it, but I really hope they preserve things like this. Look at these really old school turnstiles here headed into the Spion Cop. Really gritty. But as I said, you've got that balance. You've got the pretty river and stuff on the other side. And you've got more of that awesome artwork over here. Never miss a game. I've had these seats years. Never offside that. What's offside mean, Dad? Be half time soon. So despite the tragedy, it's been somewhat fun, mostly fun, trying to be respectful of my words, to explore Hillsborough for the very first time. If you are new around here, I started a series a few months ago called Riders the 92. After a couple of years exploring Europe, mostly Germany, we're here making a series, ticking off English grounds one by one. So hopefully we get to check out Hillsborough on match day this season. So make sure you are subscribed. And as we've said, Sheffield Wednesday, originally the Wednesday, are older than Sheffield United, and they did play at their fierce rivals' ground. So I think it's fitting that we finish this video at the rivals, at the Blades. Let's head over to Bramall Lane. I'll eat my meal deal first. I'll see you there. So guys, it does say that the Owls Megastore is open. Over there it says opening times 9 AM to 5 PM Monday to Saturday. I'm filming this on a Tuesday, but it doesn't look like anyone's home. Let's go and find out. Looks a really good shop as well, but no, no one's home. So as I said earlier on guys, these historic old English football grounds are mostly named after the roads they're situated on. This is Bramall Lane of course, that's the ground behind there, and I'm right outside a pre-match pub, a pub I have been in before. We have watched Sheffield United a couple of seasons ago play Aston Villa, and this pub was really good. Inside there were loads of shirts on the wall, pictures, lots of memorabilia. And if you're like me, missing club football, maybe you want to drown your sorrows a little bit. Maybe you want to find something to take place of that pre-match beer that you can't enjoy in a glorious pub like the Railway Inn Hotel. Well, I've got just the thing for you guys, because how do you fancy a free crate of beers to enjoy during the World Cup? Well, you can follow the link below or the QR code on screen, with thanks to our sponsors at Beer 52. Now, Beer 52 offer a range of beers, handpicked, carefully selected for their beautiful taste and of course their uniqueness from around the world. This isn't just your generic standard brand of beer. So rather than, like me, cry over the fact that we've got to wait another couple of months for club football to return, why don't you follow the link below? 10 free beers along with some snacks. They normally come with a bit of card to talk you through the beers, the differences and stuff. Thanks to Beer 52 for sponsoring the video. Why on earth wouldn't you want a free case of beer plus postage? Anyway, back to our exploration. You've got the pub there, right behind it, you've got Bramall Lane. This is what we love, the heart of the bloody community. Let's keep exploring. Right guys, the home of Sheffield United is just along this side, along Bramall Lane, the road. But I want to start with something incredibly significant. You can see over there the Cricketers' Arms. It says since 1859. That building has been here since the 1850s when Bramall Lane, the stadium, opened. Of course, probably a giveaway considering the name of this pub. Bramall Lane originally was a cricket ground. Like most grounds of that era, it was the popular sport in England. So you'd have the cricketers go from the ground, have a few pints in the Cricketers' Arms after. But as you know, it's now famous for being the home of the Blades. Now we will explore around the outside in a moment, but I want to talk about that because everyone has their claim, don't they? Everton, we spoke about Goodison Park as the claim of being the first football-specific, purposely built stadium, but it wasn't the first major stadium to host football. Of course, Field Mill, Mansfield Town's home, also claims to be the oldest professional football stadium, but some argue that Field Mill literally was a field when it opened. Now, Bramall Lane, originally being a cricket ground, didn't open, of course, as a football ground, but it is the oldest major stadium to still host football. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, Hallam, Sandygate is the oldest in general. There's loads of claims. I'll let you guys debate that in the comments below, but I want to talk about its significance, not only to the city of Sheffield. Obviously, this was the home of various clubs prior to the Blades, prior to Sheffield United ever existing. We mentioned Sheffield Wednesday is older than Sheffield United, and Sheffield Wednesday would play here for over a decade. But prior to that, the world's oldest club, where we were earlier, Sheffield FC, also at one point made this place their home. There was a dispute, I believe, between the owners of Bramall Lane Stadium. Obviously, they wanted to keep it all pristine and right for cricket, which was its priority back then. Obviously, football was a little bit frowned upon. The footballers would turn up, wreck the pitches. So whether Sheffield FC got frustrated and moved out or they got chucked out, again, let me know in the comments below. But let's get exploring. I'm really excited. I've been here before, but I'm really excited to see it once again. Let's go and have a look. So one thing I find quite unusual with this stadium, especially for an old school English ground, is this area over here. These are obviously turnstiles, but they don't go directly into the concourse area like most grounds these days in England. Now, we will see more in a moment when you go around the corner. Of course, I'm a supporter of a German football club who are located, coincidentally, in Bochum, VfL Bochum. And Bochum, believe it or not, the city is twinned with Sheffield. So really, really fitting that my club, although they have a friendship in terms of the football club with Leicester, the actual cities are twinned. Now, this is very common in Germany. You have those entranceways that actually are away from the stadium, away from the ground. But again, let me know in the comments below, guys, what other English football grounds, or even British ones, Scottish ones, of course, don't want to leave the Scots out. What other grounds can you think of where you enter and then you go outside, up the steps and into the ground? A really common thing, again, in other European countries, but in England, quite rare. Now, we did reference Everton earlier on with the claims about the grounds being the oldest and stuff, but another similarity with Everton, of course, Everton Football Club originally played at Anfield before Liverpool were even formed. It's a very similar story here. Obviously, we mentioned that dispute with the owners. Eventually, the owners wanted its own permanent football club playing at this ground, hence the creation of Sheffield United. So it is quite similar, you know. Everton played at Anfield before Liverpool were formed. Sheffield Wednesday played at Bramall Lane before Sheffield United were formed. And again, let's act all shocked. A really old ground, once again in the heart of the community, all the terraced housing. I mean, if you wondered what I was on about over there with the entranceways being so far away from the actual ground itself, just look at this road, Shoreham Street. Really unique. And that lettering over there, the Sheffield United FC, this looks like it could quite well be exactly the same as it was back in the 1980s. I'm sure it might have been improved, but what a old school retro looking shot of the ground. Really like it. That's better. Well then guys, I've been trying to track down these blue plaques. Now you can see Park House 1857. Sheffield FC's first changing rooms and clubhouse were located right here, but there is another plaque on or near B&Q. Obviously B&Q currently sits on the site of what was Sheffield FC's first ever football ground, although it's not regarded as the first ever football ground. Obviously we've mentioned Hallam. It is where the first ever football club held their first games. So let's track it down. It's incredible. We've only been back doing English football videos the past few years, but somebody just stopped me and said, "Are you Roy from Roy's Football Paradise?" And I'm like, yeah. I tried to get him to help me with locating this plaque. He's a local guy. He is a Sheffield United fan. And he did say it's down this way. So one last look, otherwise I'm gonna have to show you some pictures on screen. The moral of the story, guys, never trust ChatGPT, but we have finally found the plaque representing where the first ever ground, the world's oldest football club, Sheffield FC, would play at, East Bank. It does say opposite, so again, where this B&Q is in Sheffield, apparently housed a couple of football pitches. Sheffield FC's original home was right here, where the B&Q is. I'm really glad we finished this journey right here at the Bramall Lane Stadium, because it shows the evolution, the timeline, as we said, the crossover between those Victorian sports, the love of cricket being the national game, to now, of course, football being the one we're all obsessed by. Is Sheffield the home of football? I think it is. It's definitely, without doubt, the place modern football was born. And what I love about Sheffield is it's not perfect. It's not making these elaborate claims. It's a little bit gritty, but it really does show the working class identity of football. And again, we always talk about the modern game being stripped from the working class man. But when you walk these streets, when you see the plaques, when you learn about the history, and when you come into the heart of it, forget the glamour of some of these Premier League clubs. These true football institutions, like the Blades, like the Owls at Hillsborough, and again, Sheffield FC, who are currently trying to progress and are building their own ground closer to the centre of Sheffield. Now this is going to be the start of a series I'm doing for the channel, telling these stories about football in different communities, different cities and different counties. This is just the start, of course, but it made sense to start where it all began. We are going to be in Nottinghamshire. I think I'm going to do the whole county. We're going to be in Bradford, again, talking about more than just Bradford City. You've got Bradford Park Avenue, of course, we'll have to discuss, like today, the tragedy of the Bradford fire in 1985. I hope you've enjoyed this journey. Again, I'm not saying I'm the perfect storyteller, a great historian. I do a lot of my research online, but I do these videos because I really enjoy them, and I hope you do too. And if you did enjoy it, stick that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new. And as I said earlier, as well as telling these stories, we will be back in August with the Riders the 92 series, showing off each and every club and stadium from a matchday experience perspective. If you're here for the overseas stuff, we will be back in Germany for the first game week of the second Bundesliga season, Spieltag 1, from the 7th to the 9th of August. So do not fear, I'll be back in the twin city of Sheffield in Bochum, as well as some other German and Dutch places as well. So a nice mix on the channel going forward. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Cheers, mate.